What's up guys, Shawnthebro here. We're back for another episode of the fighting game tutorial series. So in this episode we are going to continue setting up our animation blueprint in our game. So recently in the series we've been doing lots of cleanup, and that cleanup has been helping us prepare for more complicated episodes and content like rollback netcode, multiplayer in general, AI, story mode, that sort of thing. These are some of the bigger and last topics that we have to cover before this template is pretty much ready, outside of general cleanup and performance enhancements, things like that. And so recently we've been making our animation blueprints incredibly easy to use and improving the actual behavior, removing dead logic. And it feels good to knock this one down because the animation blueprint is the biggest, most complicated blueprint that we have, and so cleaning it up is a huge improvement. Basically, we're just going to be continuing along with that today. So we'll be improving our animation blueprint, which is going to improve our performance, improve our memory usage, and make it easier to work with in the future. So if you want to get caught up in the entire fighting game tutorial series, and you can see how we've done things like commands and special effects and health bars and a lot more, I recommend that you check out this playlist in the top right corner right here, which is every episode. There's a new one every Sunday. You can see how we've done all this and a lot more in the series. Alternatively, if you only care about cleaning up your animation blueprint or having a clean AnimBP in general, that's perfectly fine. I do recommend that you check out the other episodes of the animation blueprint, because if you do, then you'll be able to follow along with this and understand why this is so much better than the previous iterations of the AnimBP. But with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started. So this is a code and blueprint tutorial series. Since it's in the animation blueprint, we're mainly going to be working in the AnimBP and the blueprints today. Since this is for the animation blueprint, we are mainly going to be working in blueprints today. However, we actually have some code improvements as well associated with this episode, so we will be touching both. Let's start by going into our animation blueprint, so specifically our mutant animation blueprint. And previously we left off by updating our end attack behavior, which was right here, into one function that we're calling that does all of our logic for us. And it's actually a pretty simple function as well. We had 3 sets of logic for this before, so we knocked that down considerably. But at the end of this behavior, and at the end of behavior for ending our jump and starting attacks and starting throws, we were calling this function named reset variables. And reset variables does what it sounds like. It's going to reset some of our values once we know we fully transitioned back from an attack or an animation. One main thing I want to tackle right away is this section here. We're using our character reference to reset variables that we had previously in the series, but we've moved away from these basic inputs and basic booleans for our commands and our attacks because we have the full input buffer and command system now. So in here we were resetting our values for these, but I don't believe any of these should be used anymore. Let's make sure we'll do it together so we don't miss anything. So in reset variables, we have was light attack used. Let's go to the code. It is a variable on our character. We can search for it, was light attack used. And we know we're setting it to false here in the constructor or in the initializer list. And we're setting it in start attack 1 here, but it doesn't look like we're using it anywhere. Let's make sure we're not using it anywhere in blueprints either. So was light attack used. So we're setting it here, which is fine, but we don't appear to use it anywhere. We technically have a third person animation blueprint, which is our basic mannequin here. And it says we were using it in here, so if we search for it, was light attack used, and we have the anim variable here, but even that we're not seeming to use, and we're not using it because I can remove it and compile and save. This animation blueprint doesn't really have the logic in it like our characters have, so we can pretty much do anything in here. But with that removed, we literally only have the one from here. And if you want, you could search your entire code base. It doesn't just have to be the current document. You could use the entire project. It should find our header file as well. And it did. Was light attack used here. And that seems to be it. So this is a variable that we can safely remove. So flat out, I'm just going to remove was light attack used, the entire variable. And I can remove it from this section here and start attack 1. So this is our input bound for our light attacks, and you'll see we are adding the input to the input buffer and adding the icon to the screen if it's practice mode. But this should be good enough. We don't really need to handle all this additional logic down here like we are, where we're checking if we can attack and if the character state is not equal to blocking or none, or the combo state is not equal to anything or it's equal to none, and then we're logging a value and we're setting our boolean to true here. So So that means we can remove this set of logic in here, which means this if statement is not useful anymore. Remember, all of those conditions that we need to check for when dealing with commands are handled when we're in the input buffer, so we don't actually need to do them when we're pressing this button anymore. So that can be flat out removed. I'm going to guess the same goes for medium, heavy, and super attacks. Or at least medium and heavy. Super could be different depending on what we did within the series, so let's make sure. But in Start Attack 2, I see that we are doing the same logic here. I'm just kind of formatting my comments so that they are all the same. But we're checking in here for the same conditions we were for the light attack, and then we're setting a boolean was medium attack used. So if we search the project for was medium attack used, we can look for it, and you'll notice that it is not used anywhere except the places that was light attack used was in place. So now we can also do this for the medium attack. So remove the entire variable from the fighter template character.h file, then go back into the CPP. You can remove these from the initializer list. I did not do that for was light attack used, but we should. So both was light attack and was medium attack used are now fully removed. That means we can remove it in our start attack 2 function, which means we can remove this if statement, and now this is what we're left with. Then we have start attack 3, which you're noticing is the same as the other ones. We're just doing a different icon and a different input being added to the buffer. But we have the same condition and we have the same log and boolean. But we have the same condition and we have the same boolean being set here, was heavy attack used. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to search was heavy attack used. And we see it in the header file. We see it here in start attack 3. We see it in the initializer list, and that's it. That means we can take this out safely, which means we can take out this if statement. So start attack 3 looks like that. Then we can remove it from the initializer list, and then we can also remove it from the header file right here. Now with those 3 gone, we're already much cleaner. Let's go into the blueprint and let's make sure we just take these out. So in reset variables, we can remove these 3 sets for light, medium, and heavy attack used. If you want to get really fancy, this means you can remove your reroute nodes for them as well and move everything over. And something like that should do the trick. Now let's make sure that super is the same condition. And I know I already removed them. If you want to be really thorough, you could check your blueprint. So was medium attack used. Make sure that it is not used anywhere in here. And actually it is, funnily enough, but it's disconnected. So in the walking backward to directional attack medium left, this is a command that we have for our mutant if you want to see the animation. I can find that for you. So we have walking backward, which is right here, and we're going to one of our commands, which I see it here on the screen, is down here. Directional attack medium left. So this attack that the mutant has that we use quite often had that transition rule that I just showed you before. But if I go in here, I don't need these nodes. They are disconnected, and at this point, they can just be safely removed. So compile and save, and there is another one actually walking forward to directional attack medium right. So if we go back to the state machine, we have our walking forward, and it's going to be this node right here, walking forward to directional attack medium right, and the state is right here. So this attack, which we also use quite often, is our medium right. And if we go to the transition for these 2 nodes, which is right here, we also had was medium attack used, but it was disconnected, replaced with the command, just like the other one was. So we can compile and save, and now when we search for this again, we don't get any results, and if we search everywhere for it in our blueprints, we also don't get any results. So that has been fully removed. Now the same goes for was heavy attack used, so we might as well check it while we're here. Was heavy attack used. And no results for this one, so that is fully removed. Make sure we check for was super used here as well. It would make sense for it to not be used anymore, but perhaps we did something different with it because it is a little bit unique. So was super used, we're setting it in the initializer list, and then we were just setting it in our start attack. This is definitely wrong. This is old logic. The only difference in here is that we're checking specifically to see if we had full super meter, which now we handle that in the command list in the input buffer as well. And we also don't want to hard code a value in our code. So this is all old logic, and we can remove it. If we want to be completely certain, we can search for the project for this variable, and we see that was super used is in the header as well, but nowhere else. And so now if we go into our animation blueprint, let's search for was super used. And I am seeing it here in reset variables, and I'm also seeing it in another transition, idle to super ultimate start, but it is disconnected just like it was in the idle to directional attacks, or walking to directional attacks, I should say. If we go to the state machine, we can check this out pretty easily. So I believe my super moves are down here, and they are. So idle to super ultimate start is going to be this one right here, I believe. Yes, idle to super ultimate start. So super ultimate start is our animation where I am applying the camera, doing my little growl animation on my mutant, which is just preparing him, indicating to the other player that this character is using their super. So if we go back to this node right here, we see that it has been replaced for the command just like the directional attacks were, which means these nodes are no longer in use. We can compile and save. And if we search for this again, it's only in reset variables, which we can now remove, which means we can clean up this function a little bit more. And there's a little bit more to do in here, but we'll get to that in a second. Now let's go back to the code. So we want to get rid of was super used in the header file of fighter template character. Then we want to go to the CPP file. We can remove it from the initializer list or the constructor body, wherever you are setting the default value. And we want to go down to start attack 4. And we can remove this boolean here, which means we can remove this if statement and log, which means we can remove this if statement. And now this is start attack 4. Wonderful. So at this point, all of those references have been removed, which cleans this up significantly. If we come back into the animation blueprint and specifically reset variables, you can see we were passing in a boolean to this function called reset button presses. If this was true, we were setting those 4 variables that we just removed from the project. If it's false, we were not setting those. But now, since we don't have those at all, and that logic is handled separately, we don't need to check for this period, which means we can remove this branch and just connect the logic from the function directly to this section here. So we can organize this a little bit better. And if we're really trying to be clean about it, just going to do something like this instead. That will work. So now this is all reset variables has left, and at this point we can also remove the input parameter from the function just by pressing the X while we have the function selected. And now the function doesn't take that parameter in. So anywhere in the event graph that was using that function may need to be reset because this is gone, but the value of it doesn't matter. So just refresh the nodes. You do that by right-click and refresh. And you can go to all these instances separately if you want, just refresh them. And then compile and save once you've gotten them all, and it should build with no warnings or errors. And now that section is cleaned up. Now the other variables in here also can likely be cleaned up as well, like looking at can use X attack. We come into our project can use X attack. You'll see that we set it in the header file of the fighter template character, or the initializer list in the header file, and we don't use it anywhere in the code. So do we use it anywhere in the blueprint? Go to find results, can use X attack. So technically we set it in reset variables, of course, because we're still here. And then if we find results in all blueprints, we don't use this variable anymore. Again, this makes sense. We previously had to do this before we had our input buffer and we could really know when we're allowed to trigger X attack. Now that we have our new system, we don't need this. So we can flat out remove this variable from reset variables as well. And now reset variables is reduced to this. And that means if we search for this, nothing should come up. Great. And now that means we can remove it from the code. So can the player use exceptional attacks? that whole thing is gone. Gone from the header, gone from the initializer list, and it's going to be gone from anywhere else in the code. I don't have it anywhere else, actually. Now, the has landed throw and the can flip likely are going to be useful in this case because can flip allows us to flip the character's mesh or their direction that they're facing, and we don't allow this while they're in the middle of an attack, so that's intended, and by the time we call reset variables, we do want to allow this at this point, is what we're saying. But the problem with this is we're calling reset variables in several places, like when we end our jump, but also when we start our attack and start our throw. Should we be able to flip when we're in an attack? The whole point of this really is to not allow it until we're ending. At some point along the line of the series, we kind of mix some logic, which is fine, but we have to determine if we really want to do this or not. Let's look at can flip. So can flip. Now can flip is definitely going to be used. It's used in the header, in the initializer list, when we're rotating toward our opponent. This is for both 2D and 3D. So this is definitely going to be used, and I know we want to keep this, but remember what I mentioned earlier. Are we sure we want to set this here? So let's see where can flip is set. It is set when we're performing a backward throw, or when backward throw has started, okay? It is set when we are doing the matching animations for our throw as well. And when the throw is finished, we're saying, yes, they can flip again. This also makes sense to me. But in reset variables, did we really want to set can flip to be true? So let's look at it with a versus mode situation where we have two characters here and we're in the template. So if I attack with this character and I jump over, do I want them to be able to flip while they're in combat? Right now they actually can. I think they should wait until their animation is done. However, start attack transition sets can flip to be true and nothing sets it to be false. So it's false for throws. And this is so that we can switch the direction and then wait to flip until the animation is finished. I believe what we should do is set can flip to be false when we're in attack and set can flip to be true when we're ending an attack. So if we go back to the animation blueprint, in reset variables, if we want to keep it here, I would set this to be true. If we go back to our start attack transitions here, these are calling reset variables, so if we're going to do that, I don't think we should set can flip to be in here. Instead, I would say let's set can flip to be false in the start attack and start throw transition. And this will be cleaned up and moved into a function like the end attack was, but for now it's fine. So we can set it to be false here when we're starting an attack, we can't flip. But then when we're in our end attack, or when we're returning from our attack, we're going to set can flip back to true. Doesn't really matter where we do it. Probably should put it next to can move for consistency's sake. Set can flip. So when we're ending the attack, can flip is going to be true. But then in start attack transition, when we're starting the attack, can flip is false. And then from reset variables, we can remove this can flip section here. Compile and save. And now if we play, we come into the game here, and at this point, now if I am to use this attack and jump over, they don't flip until the attack is finished. This is the behavior initially was intending to do. There was just some disconnect along the way that ended up changing this behavior. So I think that looks correct. Let's make sure our throws also look correct. The flipping does not occur until the proper time, so I believe all is well. So there we go, guys. That is how you can clean up your animation blueprint even further in our fighting game tutorial series. If you enjoyed and you're excited to continue to clean up your animation blueprint, then please subscribe. Consider joining the Patreon, YouTube membership, or Discord subscriptions for extra benefits along the way. If you ran into any problems while cleaning up your animation blueprint or with any of my tutorials, please feel free to join the Discord community. There is a link in the description, and I would be happy to help you out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.